Good evening. I, Dr. Lasagna Flowers, President of the Duncanville ISD Board of Trustees, call this meeting of the Duncanville Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of the Board of Trustees is present, that the meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. We will now move to opening ceremonies, and we'll begin with the invocation. Ms. Fields, will you please open us with a prayer?
Yes, ma'am, I will. Would you pray with me? Father, in the name of Jesus, we come with thanksgiving in our hearts and thank you for this day, a day that was made, that we are rejoicing and thankful. Now we ask that you would bless the Board of Trustees, our superintendent, our leadership, all of our scholars, and everyone that serves and works in this wonderful community. We ask now that you would bless our deliberations today, the decisions that will be made in the best interest of our scholars. We ask all of this in your mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Fields. Will you please stand for the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. You may be seated. We will now move to the superintendent's report. I turn you over to Dr. Goree.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and a good evening to everyone assembled here today. Madam President and Board, before we go through the superintendent's report, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the amazing culinary arts students that are to my right. Y'all wave at the audience there. Couple slides into my superintendent's presentation, I will speak about the importance of this month, as this is Board Recognition Month. And tonight, our culinary arts students prepared an incredible meal that was titled Breakfast for Dinner. And they prepared the meal, and we certainly enjoyed the meal. They are so incredibly talented, and it's just exciting to see such wonderful talents grow and be fed within our school system. At this time, I'd like to prepare to go through our superintendent's report for tonight. I think I'm driving my own. Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to start off tonight by celebrating our Board of Trustees. And as I stated earlier, this month is set aside as National School Board Appreciation Month. In January of each year, we honor school board members for their work, leadership, and commitment to improving public schools. Our school board is made up of dedicated individuals who tirelessly serve the Duncanville ISD community as volunteers. They oversee the operations of our schools and work to ensure that students are getting a high-quality education. School Board Recognition Month is an opportunity to show trustees how much we appreciate their work, their leadership, and their commitment to improving our schools. Thank you for leading with impact. Let's give our board members another round of applause. One of our big targets for this year is to improve our average daily attendance, and we set a goal of 93%. Now, what I want to remind the board and everyone listening is that attendance truly does matter. In addition to school systems being funded based on average daily attendance, the most important thing is that we know that students who attend schools, they will see that as a positive impact, and they will reach their academic goals, and it will help them to achieve their wildest dreams. During the fall semester of this year, we had 7,928 students that attended school 90% of the time. Let's give that a round of applause to that. This has certainly been a focus of our school system, and we're so thankful for everyone's contribution to seeing this improvement. For the month of December, we did have the opportunity to celebrate 3 campuses that had the highest average daily attendance for the school year thus far. It is my pleasure to say congratulations to Kennemer Middle School, Bill Hart Elementary School, and Brandenburg Intermediate Schools. And you see there, their percentages are indicated there. But we do look to continue to present this information to the board, as well as to continue to see improvements across all of our campuses in the schools district. Congratulations are in order to the Duncanville High School. Duncanville ISD has earned the Texas Thespian Premier Community for Theater Education Award. This program recognizes and honors school districts that provide their theater programs with the resources to achieve at and above the standards. Theater education provides several social benefits, including teamwork skills, how to give and receive constructive criticism, problem solving, trust, cooperation, and collaboration. Additionally, theater education helps students to develop a sense of strong self, builds empathy and understanding among their peers, and broadens their knowledge of the world around them while preparing them for future careers. Congratulations to the Duncanville Theater Program. Well, it's time for the 89th Texas Legislature. And as you know, the governing body of the work that we do every day for children is controlled a lot by our legislatures. The 89th session did officially open on Tuesday, January 14th at 12 noon p.m. Some very interesting facts is that so far there has been 2,714 total bills filed. Of those, 555 public education bills have been filed, 66 bills related to property taxes, 59 bills related to school governance, 44 bills related to school finance. The staff is certainly committed, board members, to continuing to keep you informed as we go through this legislative session. And certainly, last but not least, the Duncanville Sparklers are excited to compete again this year in the Special Olympics cheering event. We're aimed to bring home the gold this year. The competition is free and starts at 6 o'clock p.m. We'd love for each of you to join us and cheer them on. We certainly appreciate our community for their continued support of the Duncanville Sparklers. And you see the date of that event is January 24th, 2005, 6 o'clock, and that will be at the K. Bailey Hutchins Convention Center in downtown Dallas. And again, the event is free. I'd like to take this opportunity to begin the conversation around something that we'll speak about later tonight, and that's building the future, raising champions. Thank you again, I'd say, to the Duncanville ISD community for their support of the 2023 bond. Implementing a bond is a process, and we want to keep you informed and continue to get your input. As a reminder, Bond 23 and 23 will enable us to renovate all campuses, reconfigure elementary schools from pre-K4 to pre-K5 schools, and middle schools will become 6, 7, 8 campuses. Additionally, the Build the Future Raising Champions campaign includes an opportunity for us to rezone our schools into true feeder patterns that matriculate at Duncanville High School. During this informational portion of the meeting tonight, you will hear more about the campaign that we're beginning around building the future as we raise champions. And the last closing slide of the night really is a focus on the same picture that we opened the presentation with. And this is a picture of the people who had the honor of being inducted into our the Duncanville Wall of Honors. Hall Hall of Honors. Okay, very good. And last week, we inducted the newest members into the Academic Hall of Honors. This is one of the ways that we celebrate excellence while saluting the contributions of those who advance the advancement of athletics in Duncanville ISD. This year, our honorees were Barbara and Gary Blivens, Bob Daniels, Scott Fahey, Reginald Samples, and David Sykes. Again, congratulations to all of our new inductees. And that does conclude our superintendent's report for today's meeting. Thank you, Madam President.
In the spirit of Board Appreciation Month, I'd like to take this time to honor and appreciate all of our board members. Thank you for your service and your support and for allowing me to lead as me. I know that can be challenging, but thank you so much for all of your individual support and collective support. I'm glad to work with all of you. We will now move to recognitions. I will turn the meeting over to Connie Wallace.
Good evening, President Flowers, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Goree. At this time, I am showcasing our many donations that we received recently. Just to highlight a few of them, our PTSA continues to support our high school. This time, they focused in on our youth and government program. We had donations, several donations to our Panther Pantry, and we also had a very significant donation, and many of you were able to be a part of that presentation back in December. There was a partnership between Hibbett, Nike, and one of our former Panthers, Mr. Anthony Black, who now plays for the Orlando Magic. Not only did they bless our boys basketball program and our girls basketball program with $25,000 each, but they also are planning to offer scholarships to our students as well as internships for our students. So this is a major blessing, and we are so proud and excited to partner with them. And we are grateful to all of our donors who continue to support us here in Duncanville ISD. Are there any questions about the donations that you see? All right, and in the spirit of thanking those who have contributed to Duncanville ISD, we are really fortunate that every year you guys, our board, you step up and you make it happen for our kids. You guys have stressed the importance by having this as our 7th annual student coat drive. This is a list of some of the donors, and I doubt if my number is accurate, because if memory serves me correctly, after I captured a number of over $2,000, I think we were still getting checks rolling in. And so we are grateful to everyone in our community for continuing to support your effort, but it speaks volumes to your leadership and how they know that you guys are here and invested in our children. So thank you to each and every one of you for hosting this annual coat drive, and to our community for their continued support. And at this time, we want to continue celebrating our board. It is National Board Appreciation Month, and we know that our board is committed to excellence. And Duncanville ISD is proud of that you guys help us make sure that we provide our students with rich opportunities to engage, which means that any given day, we are able to go to a campus, go to an event in the community, and your faces are there. You are present, you are in the place, and our students see you in action. And so we are really grateful for that. But tonight, we have the pleasure of bringing some entertainment to you. You don't have to go anywhere. We have 2 of our student groups that are going to perform for you. At this time, I'd like to invite our DHS saxophone ensemble up. They have some music they're going to play for you. Come on down, guys. And they are under the leadership of Mr. Mark Teal. He wasn't able to be here tonight, but I'm about to give you a new name, Dr. Doucet. Well, he's not quite doctor yet, maybe, but under the leadership of Mr. Doucet this evening, but Mark Till is their director, and so let's turn our ears and hearts over to them and listen in, and they will be followed by the Central Ballet Folklorico.
Okay, hi, my name is Natalie Mendoza. This is Rosemary White, Preston Pendleton, and Yakira Sega. And we're part of the Duncanville High School Saxophone Ensemble. And today we're going to be playing selections from La La Land, the musical/movie for y'all today.
And next up, thank you so much. Let's give them one more round of applause. That was amazing. I don't think I knew you could do so much with just saxophones. At this time, our Ballet Folklorico students from Central Elementary School, come on in, guys. We are ready for you. While they are getting situated, we will be passing out some gifts for our board members. So we'll turn our attention over to Mr. Corral and our Central Ballet Folklorico. An important point to note is that this group is actually over 70 students strong. So this is just a small sample of students that they've brought out here tonight. And so at this time, we will pass out gifts. They're ready. All right, we'll do that. Outstanding, outstanding. I believe our Ballet Folklorico students have family here in the building, and some of our saxophone players, they may have family here as well. If you are a family member of any of these students that performed tonight, please stand and be recognized, because we know that you make sacrifices for them to be in this ensemble. Thank you. And at this time, we have gifts that we'd like to present to our board members. And I hear Dr. Goree mentioning a great photo op for them to stand and hold up their box, so we'll do that. Yes, ma'am.
And everybody right here. 1, 2, 3.
Now let's turn our attention to the video.
Duncanville ISD
Leadership is more than a title.
It's a commitment.
to making a lasting impact.
This School Board Appreciation Month,
we celebrate our Board of Trustees
who embody the spirit of
Lead with impact in every decision they make.
They drive growth by building others up and prioritizing their own development as lifelong learners.
they value people by demonstrating integrity and creating strong collaborative relationships.
They inspire results by thinking ahead, addressing challenges, and planning for success of every student and staff member.
They lead change with resilience and adaptability, navigating challenges with grace and determination.
They are learning-centered, fostering inclusivity and ensuring that every student has the tools to shine.
And they elevate excellence, encouraging high expectations and celebrating achievement at every level.
I'd like to once again thank our board members for the hard work that you do each and every day. We know because of your tireless efforts, the leaders of tomorrow's Texas will be a reality. We're so excited that your impact is making such a difference. Thank you, board members.
To our dedicated Board of Trustees,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for your vision.
Dedication.
And leadership for tomorrow's Texas.
You're welcome. We thank you guys for allowing us to serve and for all of your votes, because we are here because you elected us. These seats belong to the people. They don't belong to us. So thank you for the confidence that you show throughout the year and especially during January. So we appreciate you all. Thank you so much. We do not have any communications from citizens regarding, we do not have any communications from citizens. We will now move to closed session. We are back from closed session. We will continue with the consent agenda. Is that Ms. Jones? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Please cast your vote electronically.
Okay.
Motion passes 6-0. We will now move on to action agenda item A, to call the school board election for May 3rd, 2024, to elect trustees for places 1, 2, and 3. Our presenter is Brandy Mayo.
Good evening, Dr. Flowers, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Gorey. I'm here to present the call to school board election for May 3rd, 2025, to elect trustees for places 1, 2, and 3, as Dr. Flowers just mentioned. Election order has been prepared officially, declaring the election date and establishing the absentee voting period, and you have them at your chair. They're in a paper clip. So you can see there the order of election for review, which will need to be signed tonight so we can submit the order to Dallas County Elections. In addition to that, there is a resolution for the district explaining the dates and who will be responsible party, and we'll also need your approval for that. And in addition, there is a draft contract for the election. So there's no action on that, but it is for your review for the draft contract. The elections office is still taking changes to the contract, and they will not be complete until after January 29th. And once that contract's complete, they'll share it with the district so we can move forward.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Do I have a motion that the trustee election be called as presented and the election order establishing the trustee election for May 3rd, 2025, and early voting for April 22nd, 2025 through April 29th, 2025, with the Dallas County Election Board conducting the election in all precincts and the board president or designee be authorized to sign on behalf of the Board of Trustees?
So moved.
It's been moved and second. Are there any questions? Ms. Savage Martin?
I just noticed, now I don't know what the outcome of this, but I believe it was last week, could have been week before, the city council was going to look to revise the voting locations, reduce it, would be a better word. So I don't know if y'all got that information.
So we got the information, the draft information, very late on Friday afternoon. So the voting, the early voting and the voting sites are still under review. So on the bottom of the order for election, it says subject to change. So we're still waiting on the election office to make those final locations. And once we receive that, then we can update the posting for the correct.
Because I was thinking that we ought to give our information to the city council, because we may have a school that's just not suited to have people in it, because that area, they could go to other places or whatever. One place I'm thinking of is Byrd, but that may be the best location in the world. So I'm not the person to speak. But if we have locations that the principal thinks it would be better suited not to have it there, we ought to let them know, because there are too many in Duncanville. It's too easy to vote at the central location, for example. So we ought to give our input, is what I'm saying.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, and we still have that opportunity, so we can take this list and review that and share that information out. Thank you so much.
Surely.
I wonder, do we have a record of the total numbers that usually use the facilities for voting? If we have a history of that, that would help with what Trustee Savage Martin is saying, if we have low numbers or.
Right, because the city doesn't know. We know. You know, we know which campus is convenient and which is not.
And they should, we can speak with the elections office, so it's a matter of public record to know how many people voted at each voting location, so we can combine that information with the recommendation of the district.
For example, like Olish, on your campus, they do it at the gym, and that's completely separate from anything else. So I would think that would be convenient, but you would be the best person to say that. Thank you.
And we can take that under advisement for future elections as well. Thank you.
Great point. Please cast your vote electronically. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. We will now move to action item B, dual credit waiver. Presenter, Mr. Graham.
Greetings to Dr. Flowers, Dr. Gorey, and all trustees. Today I'm requesting board approval to submit a waiver to the Texas Education Agency for Duncanville High School Collegiate Academy. This waiver is crucial for aligning our high school schedule with Dallas College's calendar and ensuring a full state funding for our students in the dual credit program. The Duncanville High School Collegiate Academy allows 9th and 10th grade students to attend Duncanville High School, while our 11th and 12th grade students take dual credit courses at Dallas College Mountain View. The program helps students earn both high school and college credits, preparing them for future success. Current challenges with the program is taking attendance for our 11th and 12th grade students on Friday when they don't have any required classes at Duncanville High School. Number 2 is space. Finding space for our 11th and 12th grade students to meet on Fridays is a challenge. In the past, these students were allowed to meet on Fridays at Mountain View College, but that has been eliminated by the college. The Texas Education Code requires 75,600 minutes per year. Dallas College operates on a Monday through Thursday schedule, which results in fewer than the 75,600 required instructional minutes. Currently, students still need to attend Duncanville High School on Friday, even though they have completed the required hours at Mountain View to fulfill the 75,600 instructional minutes. We are requesting to submit a waiver to allow dual credit course hours at Mountain View College to count toward the required instructional minutes. This will help align the high school schedule with the college's schedule or calendar, ensuring the students remain full-time for ADA funding purposes. If the waiver is granted, students will attend Mountain View College Monday through Thursday, sign in and out to track attendance, and use Fridays as a flex day for the required coursework, academic support, or extracurricular activities. This ensures they stay on track for graduation and college readiness. We're recommending that the board approve the submission for the waiver request to the Texas agency to ensure students continue to receive full funding while benefiting from the dual college program. Do you have any questions at this time?
Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion to approve the submission of the waiver to the Texas Education Agency to align with Duncanville ISD's instructional calendar for dual credit students at Mountain View College with the state's attendance accounting requirements?
So moved.
It's been moved in second. Are there any questions, comments, or discussions? Ms. Savage Martin?
Is this usual, or is this really unique?
There are several districts around this area that use this same format in order to get the students ADA while they're out on Fridays.
And is it only Mountain View?
No, you can.
Oh, all of the.
Yes, all of the community colleges in Dallas County allow
I
this.
mean, we're kind of at their mercy, so they need to recognize this for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Graham. Anybody else? Go ahead. Trustee Phillips?
Okay, thank you, Doctor. I'm sorry,
My last name is Flowers right now.
I'm sorry. You know what? It said Flowers. Yeah, okay, never mind. Gosh, this is what happens when you don't eat. Okay, Mr. Graham.
Yes, ma'am.
Has this been communicated to the parents that the students are going to be out of school on Fridays? And what was the feedback if you did?
That's a great question. Dr. Stats has prepared a presentation for the parents about this. Students will receive, and parents will receive, this particular presentation about what's required for students to be out on Friday. Every student will not be out on Friday. If they're not progressing at the way that they should, if they need extra help for academic support, if they're participating in any extracurricular activity, they will be required to attend on Fridays. At the beginning of the year, students will receive a document to take to their parents, and the parents will get notice if they want that child to be home on Fridays as well. So they'll get that choice.
Okay, thank you for that. I think as a parent, I think it would be beneficial to communicate it to the parents before we vote on it, before we make a decision. I mean, that's just my thought process. As a parent, I'm just speaking from.
One thing, if I can add to Mr. Graham, is that too, we were somewhat put in our back against the wall because at one point, Mountain View would provide us with space there on Fridays where they would, students could go there and could, be supervised, whereas that's no longer the option. So one thing I will say too, and I'll reiterate what Mr. Graham spoke to, is that it's critically important that we look at this from how do we create the best management of time for students who are in many situations are very advanced. So in that respect, we have to, when those children are struggling, we have to make sure that we have opportunities on the high school where we require them to come to the high school. And I agree with you, Trustee Phillips, that we've got to make sure the parents are very involved in the decision, especially if they're not going to be at school. So we're going to have to go beyond the call of duty to make sure that parents know that where they are and are accountable for that.
When did this come about, though? When was the decision made to, when did Dallas College say we're not going to have school on Friday?
That started this year, I believe, and I know that this current year, the team has been working with other districts that implemented this in the past to ensure that we did it with fidelity. So again, since we've had that particular issue, we wanted to make sure that we provided an opportunity for those students and parents.
Okay. Thank you.
Trustee Colton?
So thank you very much, for bringing this before us. So I do have some questions. I guess when were we told by Mountain View that space would not be available? Because I guess that is what is causing you all to bring the action to the board, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we used to have a dedicated space where they can go, where there would be staff from the high school with them.
Right, Mr. Graham, Dr. Nix, do you have some information on that? I'm going to let you phone a friend because I do know Dr. Nix and I have had a conversation about this.
Thank you for the question. You're absolutely right. 2 years ago, well, actually before that, when we partnered with Dallas College, we had a dedicated gym space that we used where we had lunch. We had our assistant principal, who at the time is Ms. Lee. She would monitor the kids, students, the scholars there. In addition to that, Trustee Colton, whenever they didn't have class, that was where they were supposed to be. And we just had an agreement with Dallas College. Since that time, Dallas College, it was Mountain View. Then what they did was they consolidated as Dallas College now. So they were no longer Mountain View. It was Dallas College as an entity. President changed, the administration at the college changed, and so we were told 2 years ago, Dr. Stats has been the principal since that time, 2 years ago, that we would no longer have the space to house our kids, to feed our children, to have, when they're not in class, that they can go there and study and things of that nature. So for 2 years, we've been working with the high school to bus those kids back to the high school, find ways to find places to put them, find ways to support them, and we're talking about a couple of hundred kids, right, that are not in school. So we were told 2 years ago, and even as early as this year, the number of classroom space that we were provided and given has been reduced. So the college, and that's not a negative thing. That's just what they're doing to all of the districts. It's not just germane to Duncanville. So the space that we were provided, all of the amenities that we had that were given to us have been reduced. And so now we're at a situation where those scholars have to come back to Duncanville High School, but they're not in class. They're not taking classes because they don't have a class at the high school to take. So they're either in the e-seminar room where, we just kind of pack them in there, and which means the high school can't access it because we're using it for the collegiate space or things of that nature. So hopefully that answers your question about the timeline.
So they're at school on Fridays, and they're in you say a seminar room?
So yes, we have the majority of our 11th and 12th grade students are in the East Seminar Room. That's East Seminar? Yeah, East Seminar Room.
Okay, and then what are they doing?
Dr. Stats, you want to come and talk? I'm going to ask Dr. Stats just to come up because as the principal, she knows the day-to-day operations of what's happening. I want to make sure you have accurate information.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. So currently, yes, we house our 11th graders primarily in the East Seminar because we have 105 of them, and then we have 77 seniors, and so oftentimes we have to put them up in our PAC area, which is our open area in the collegiate. And so they do report to collegiate on Fridays. We have designated study hall timeframes for them. We try to work with some of our elementary schools to figure out community service opportunities and different things. We have colleges that come and talk to them, so we are trying to utilize that time wisely. But technically, we are not meeting the needs for funding purposes on Fridays because they are not actually attending instructional classes on Fridays. Where in the past, when they went to the Dallas College Mountain View campus and we had that designated space, they were then allowed to attend office hours of professors, utilize the writing labs, utilize the tutoring center over at Dallas College. So that was why it was very beneficial over there. And so we've tried to just put in a designated study hall time on Fridays here.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So, okay, well, we have to kind of do this in order to receive credit, it sounds like to me. Because while they're here, they're not getting that credit on Fridays, right?
Correct, because they've already attended their classes Monday through Thursday at Dallas College.
And we cannot offer professors hours and all the other things that could be offered at the community college. And so there is no way that, those services can be provided.
Not on our campus.
I mean, not on our campus, but even at Dallas College.
Right. The only thing that Dallas College does have available is virtual tutors that they can sign up for sessions, but that can be available to them at all times.
Okay, so have we talked to the students about, what we're talking about tonight?
No, we have not communicated to parents or students yet. Mainly it was talking about the funding process for ADA and attendance accounting to ensure that that was an approval process before we could actually then communicate to parents that this would be a communication plan in place. So we do have a communication plan in place if this were to be approved, and how to move forward there.
And just remember that this is just an option for
It's
the
optional.
parents. If they choose to have their
Correct.
students come on Friday, the students can come to school on Friday.
Okay.
Correct.
One thing I will say is I did have an opportunity to talk to some students about this, and what I will say is that generally speaking, it goes to effectively managing your time and that transition into the true collegiate experience when you have that option of, okay, Friday I'm going to independent study, I'm going to do something different. So it would be providing an option, and I do agree that it's optional, so families can still say, no,
Correct.
Dr. Flowers, you're going to school. Okay.
Correct.
I have a better understanding now. I was under the impression that 11th and 12th graders were not going to be in school on Friday, and that's where the concern came in for me, because I wanted to make sure that before we make decisions about our parents' children, that they know what's going on. So, thank y'all for explaining and clearing it up. And I do appreciate that there are extracurriculars that they can engage in, like Dr. Goree just mentioned, and Ms. Stats and Dr. Graham. So thank you for clearing all that up, because I was really like, wait a minute, they're not gonna be in school on Friday, what's gonna happen? Thank you.
I have a question. So I would like to know, like, what is the plan? Like, we apply for a waiver, and so the waiver, we're asking the state to allow them to not, they won't be in Dallas College accumulating credit and hours. However, on Fridays, I would like for us to know, like, what is the system though? It shouldn't change from Friday to Friday with different kids, and to just know what that's going to look like. And being on a high school, like that could be chaotic to not know how many kids are going to show up. So what does that system look like? How will you select the students that are coming on campus? Is that the parent permission? Is that for the month, for the whole year? Or parents saying they're coming this Friday but not next Friday? Like, I'd like to know what's going to happen if this waiver is granted, just for accountability purposes. Where are our 11th and 12th graders on Fridays?
So I'll talk about the waiver, then I'll let Dr. Stats talk about the actual process. Of course, with the waiver, since the students are only at school for Monday through Thursday, we're asking the state to say, yes, it's okay for them to stay home on Friday because they have completed their college courses, which is comparable to the amount of time or the academic rigor that takes place on a school campus. So we are allowing them not to have these 75,600 minutes. So that's what the waiver is doing for us.
So just for clarity, so the waiver, we're asking the state to give us permission for our students to not have school on Fridays.
Yes, that's what we're asking them.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. Thank you for reinstating that. We are asking the state to give them permission to not have class on Fridays.
That's correct. You'll get funding. You'll get complete funding for that.
Yes, I'm not really concerned about the
Okay.
funding piece because you guys explained that really well, that it's not taking away ADA. I'm just thinking about the accountability and where are our kids on Fridays with this newfound freedom? What are we gonna put in? What's the system? What's the expectation?
We would put a system in place for that. I have spoken with other districts that do this as well, where the parents would then notify at the very beginning of the year with a form indicating what their preference for their child would be on that Friday. Is the child going to use our transportation, attend school fully? We would have the list of students that would be there every single Friday. There would be time periods where you could change your option. So say at midterm, you know what, my son or daughter now drives and I would like them to stay at home. So we'd have designated time frames where they could change that option. But the other problem would be, well, not necessarily problem, but the other thing that we would look at as well is their academic standing at Dallas College. So any student that is on probation or probation 2, they would be required to come on Fridays for that mandatory study hall and receive that academic support. But if a scholar is in good standing on Chancellor's Honor Roll, Provost Honor Roll, they've obviously shown that they are able to do the workload and are able to manage their time wisely.
Okay. See, my concern is if we have a waiver and the kids do not have to be at school on Fridays, how do you tell kids, but you have to be here this particular Friday? How do we communicate that? Do we get parents to sign a contract or the students? I'd like to know what that piece is going to look like before we ask the state to say it's okay for our students not to attend school on Fridays.
So as we stated, the waiver is for us, the district, stating that we have the authority to do this. Students still have to abide by our expectations. And as Dr. Stats laid out, the expectation is for every student to accomplish the goals that is set. That is good standing at Dallas College, that's meeting the ACT, SAT requirements that she has set, whatever requirements that she has set. If they are not meeting those requirements at the beginning of the year, you have signed that you will have to come to school on Friday in order to gain the information you need to meet those particular requirements. So we still have the authority to make them come to school on Fridays.
Trustee Savage Martin.
Have the other districts received their waiver from TEA?
Yes, in order for you to do this, you had to have a waiver.
Okay, very good.
How long does it take to get to know if this waiver is approved?
That's a great question, and I can find out when I leave here and then get that information back to you. I'm sure it's, normally waivers take a few weeks before they.
That's fine.
Yes.
That's just ballpark.
Additional questions? Trustee Colton?
So what is the time frame I mean, what is the period of time related to the waiver, the effective date, and the effective period for this?
The waiver, once it is initiated and completed through TEA, they're going to give you an effective date on that particular waiver. So if we complete this waiver and we say we want to start it in April the 26th, and it's approved on that particular day for that particular day, then we can start it on that day.
Okay, so what is the effective date that we're looking at?
You know, I don't think we've really defined exactly what that effective date would be, since we don't have definitive information around the waiver dates. But from the voice of the board, I do think we'll ensure you that before we begin that you will see the parent meetings, you will see those communications in place, you will see, and we have some of these things, but you'll see a more formalized version of what that will look like at the implementation stage and what it will look like as students are matriculating through the school year. And it could be next year that we do this. And just get our waiver part taken care of now.
Okay, because according to what I'm, understanding, they're coming here on Fridays, but they're not receiving credit, right, currently for that.
So we are receiving credit, correct? We are receiving credit. But I do believe if you were to walk into the, if you look at some of our students in this program and some of our highest functioning students, and I do believe if you walk through those spaces, you would not see this as effective use of their time. It is a babysitting service for someone who could be offering so much more if given a little bit of flexibility. And let me fully agree with the parent has to play a critical role in this. But I think you would see that there's better use of their time.
So how would this impact staff if, most of the students' parents decide that they don't need to be here on Friday? I mean, how many staff members are involved in the Friday activity? None.
We have 2 paraprofessionals as well as 1 pathways to college teacher.
Okay, all right.
It is not an academic moment for children, other than what they're creating on their own.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Thank you all. Please cast your votes electronically. Motion carries 4-2. Thank you. We will now move to action item C, LASSO Cycle 3 Strong Foundation Grant to use Sustained Ed as the approved provider. Presenter, Dr. Nix.
Good afternoon, Madam, Dr. President, members of the board, and Dr. Gurry. And I'd like to just take a moment to just also thank the board for this Board Appreciation Month. Your governance, your support, your leadership, just very much appreciated. So thank you so much, board. Thank you for the opportunity to present our district's recommendation for selecting the approved provider for our LASSO Cycle 3 Strong Foundations Grant. As a reminder, LASSO stands for Learning Acceleration Support Opportunities. And this is the 3rd time that we're going through the process of selecting a service provider. My presentation will outline the requirements of the grant, the critical need for Year 3 implementation, and why Sustained Ed stands out as the ideal partner for this initiative. The LASSO Cycle 3 Strong Foundation Grant prioritizes the effective implementation of high-quality instructional materials. That's also referred to as HQIM, to drive academic success. To meet the Texas Education Agency's guidelines, districts are required to select an approved provider that offers comprehensive curriculum expertise, tailored support for curriculum customization, frequent and targeted coaching to both principals, campus leaders, and teachers, a collaborative approach to building a long-term capacity among the educators and administrators, and a proven track record of success. As we transition into year 3 of our HQM, or highly qualified instructional material implementation, the district's focus shifts towards refinement and customization. Specifically, these are the things that we're looking for. We're looking for a collaborative hand-in-hand relationship with our partner. We're looking for a customized curriculum and what we're looking for is making sure that we have strong academic achievement and results. We've got to do better. We've got to continue to improve. We're looking for expertise when it comes to the curriculum. We're looking for a team that's going to work with our teachers and our principals. We're looking for a team that's going to be flexible and frequent, that they're going to be here, that they're going to be dedicated and committed to our district, our teachers, our campus. We're looking for a partner that's going to be steeped in coaching and understanding how to coach and has a track record of what it looks like to coach to success. And lastly, that track record that we talked about is what we're looking for in a partner. After evaluating multiple providers, Sustain Ed emerges as the most aligned with our district's needs and TEA's highly qualified instructional material guidelines, and here's why. First, Sustain Ed specializes in tailoring highly qualified instructional materials for districts with diverse demographics, ensuring a robust academic outcome. Their team of experienced educators provides direct coaching to teachers and to administrators with a proven track record. Their support frequency, Support Ed, of all of the service providers that we looked at, their touch points to campuses, TA says, here's how many times you have to work with campuses, and we've worked with service providers who does just that. They almost double the touch points than other service providers, meaning they're committed to working with our teachers, being in the classrooms, being there weekly, supporting us, and that's almost unheard of with the support providers that we have options to look at. Collaborative, they have been such a collaborative partner even thus far in the process, through the application process, helping us to understand what the timeline is going to look like for implementation, even being here tonight to support with this presentation. And then most impactfully is their track record of success. When we looked at these different service providers, all of them do great things. I'm sure they provide great opportunities and great support to districts, but Sustain Ed stood out for these particular reasons. Number one, 100% of school partners in 2023 and 2024 increased the quality of their teaching staff by increasing the percentage of high-performing teachers through coaching and development. With Sustain Ed, 100% of their leaders coached were retained in school leadership. With Sustain Ed, the majority of school partners outpaced both district and state outcomes in reading, math, and science, even in first year of highly qualified instructional materials, implementation, and/or even with novice leadership. 100% of leaders in all district partnerships working with Sustain Ed for adopting and implementing highly qualified instructional materials would highly recommend Sustain Ed for partners with implementation of the curriculum. So based on these factors and based on our comparison of service providers, we would like to formally recommend Sustain Ed as the approved provider for planning and implementing our highly qualified instructional materials under the LASSO 3 Strong Foundations grant. As mentioned, we have representation from Sustain Ed here to answer any specific questions that you may have about their particular company or the service that they could provide. It would be my pleasure to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Nix. Do I have a motion to approve Sustain Ed as the approved provider for the LASSO Cycle 3 Strong Foundations Grant?
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and second. It's been moved in second. Are there any questions, comments, or discussions? Trustee Savage Martin.
As I was perusing your evaluation, I agree with you. I think that's really good. I focused on former district and school leaders and teachers from Texas. I think that's a good utilization.
Very good, thank you.
Trustee Colton?
So Dr. Nix, would you elaborate on that particular statement, former district and school leaders and teachers from Texas? I mean, would you provide additional information on that item?
Yes, ma'am. In terms of the survey results and the retention results of the partners that they have worked with, you would?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that is another question. What kind of results, have they achieved? I know you gave some, and then also who are their other clients? And how long, have they been in this line of business? I guess, I see your evaluation table, and I'm wondering, is this the selection criteria that was used that brought, them, to the top? And I was just wondering if there were other, items that were considered. And yeah, we have high stakes here.
Yes.
We've really got to see progress in our academics, and yeah, I'm just asking for additional information.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the questions. Dr. Nix, I'm going to let you phone a friend also. We do have some people here from some state aid, and we're going to invite them to the podium. And I do think they could do a wonderful job of providing answers to some of those questions. And, of course, any questions that they don't answer, we will make sure we get you those answers.
Thank you for the questions. Thank you for allowing us to be here to answer questions. With regards to the former district school leaders and teachers, as Dr. Nix said, we have worked with many districts.
So if you don't mind, just introduce yourself to the board, please.
I'm Jake
Thank you.
Stainbrook. I'm the CEO of Sustained Leaders. Prior to co-founding this organization, I've been a principal supervisor, a principal, assistant principal, teacher, all in Title I schools. I've turned around many schools in each one of those different roles. I also have been a professor at SMU for the last 6 years, where I teach instructional leadership. So I'm teaching graduate students the science of reading, the science of math, the science of learning, how to implement HQIM, high quality instructional materials, to get strong results for diverse students. As was mentioned, all of our team members are former teachers and leaders in Texas who have experience implementing high quality instructional materials and implementing that curriculum in very diverse schools and diverse districts.
What districts have y'all turned around?
So we have worked with Dallas ISD and worked with a subset of schools there. The schools we've worked with, they've accelerated from F ratings, projected F ratings, to C ratings, projected C ratings, to projected A ratings. What we have found when we're implementing HQIM is that it really does require customization to meet the diverse learning needs of our students. And so the curriculum is on grade level, and when we have students who may be below grade level, there's really important customizations and adjustments that need to be made. Because each one of us on our team has experience leading schools, we have experience coaching and developing teachers. And so when we come into schools, we are working side by side with leaders, side by side with teachers. We're modeling lessons, we're providing coaching feedback, we're modeling PLC meetings. So we really take a high touch, customized approach to be able to have strong outcomes.
So tell us about the team that would be working here.
Absolutely. Yes, so they would be former principals, former assistant principals who have led the implementation of high quality instructional materials. So we know that Bluebonnet Math was based on Eureka. So we have team members who have worked with the Great Minds Eureka curriculum for as much as a decade, even before it was formally adopted by TEA. We also have team members who have led the implementation of Amplify, which is now kind of the foundation for the Bluebonnet reading curriculum. And so our team is going to be a combination of school leaders, again, former principals. We'll also have instructional experts for the curriculum, and collectively they will provide a comprehensive high-touch support to all of the schools here in Duncanville.
Will you have to staff up?
We currently have the team to be able to support, the work we're doing in Duncanville. As we move forward, and if we were to take on future districts, then there would be, of course, staffing, but we have identified the team that would be supporting Duncanville.
And how long have y'all been doing this in this lineup?
Yeah, great question. So as an organization, we launched 3 years ago, and we've been doing it ever since the first LASSO cycle. So we've been working now for 3 years. We've supported districts all over the state. Again, prior to that, and the individuals on our team and the individuals that we hire, each one of us has extensive experience prior to coming to our organization in teaching the curriculum, leading the implementation of it, leading school improvement, most importantly, to be able to get strong student outcomes.
Okay, so how long would it take for us to see results here?
Our goal is 1 year. Our goal, we are deeply committed to seeing that impact. So our goal is that within that year that we support next year, that we would see meaningful, measurable progress in student outcomes. That's our commitment. And I think, again, as Dr. Nick said, that's one of the things that makes us unique. We are a deeply impact-driven organization. We know that in order to achieve impact, we have to do more frequent touch points. We have to do higher touch support. And so those are things that we commit to with our district partners. We also are an education nonprofit based here in North Texas. And so we are not in this for money, we're in this for impact. And so we love the work we do. We're passionate about, the education of our kids. And so that drives us to, again, go above and beyond in terms of how we conduct the work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Trustee Fahey?
This would be a question for Dr. Nix. Excuse me. Does the LASSO grant cover the entire cost?
Yes, the LASSO grant covers the entire cost. And just as a point to make sure we reiterate, we have to select a service provider. Who we choose to go with is up to us. But this is a requirement of the LASSO grant.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Do any of the other qualifiers exceed the grant? Or were these limited to what would the grant cover?
No, the grant will cover any service provider that we choose.
Any?
Yeah.
At any cost?
Well, it's not that they charge us. It's
Right.
when we get the grant, there's a portion of the grant that goes to the service provider and a portion of the grant that goes to the district, regardless of the service provider that we choose.
Well, I was thinking if they sent 50 people here as compared to 10, I was just.
But that's a great point, Trustee Fahey, because that's one of the things, Trustee Colton was talking about, what's their impact, what are the selection criteria? That's one of the things that we looked at, and when we were looking at Sustain Ed, and they're saying, no, we're going to increase the number of touch points. We're going to exceed what's required of us. We're going to exceed. The first question I had was, how much that's going to cost us, right? And they were saying, no, that's no additional charge. We understand that to have the impact that we need to have, when we were, according to them, when we were working with Arlington, when we were working with Irving, when we were working with Dallas, things of that nature, we saw the gains when we increased the number of touch points, when we were actually involved, being flexible, being intentional about what that looks like. So that's one of the reasons that we looked at.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Trustee Savage Martin?
Just one point. I think y'all did make a good recommendation, and I like the SMU part.
I have a question for Sustained Ed.
Yes.
You know the demographics of our community and our staff. Would you say that you have a diverse staff?
Absolutely, yeah. I would say our staff is very diverse in terms of, and it matches the demographics and matches the diversity of the community here in Duncanville. And then in the districts we've worked in districts that have very similar demographics, also have very similar profile of teachers. So we know that districts now have high percentages of uncertified teachers. So we've done work coaching and supporting these young leaders, high numbers of uncertified teachers who are trying to implement this on-grade level curriculum that presents very unique challenges. And so as Dr. Nix mentioned, like, we very much take a coaching support, not a compliance-based approach to supporting schools in implementing the curriculum, so that we see very real impact, and we see the student learning growth in both reading and math.
And my last question for you is, how many of our schools are you prepared to support?
All of them that are in the grant, so it'd be the 9 schools next year. Yeah, so all 9 elementary schools.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. With the consolidation that's on track, I think the intermediate will be supported. We would support all 9 elementary schools through the LASSO grant.
Okay, all 9 elementary. And this, Dr. Nix, this is slated to begin.
So the timeline for this is when we select a service provider, if we move forward today, we will be informed late February, early March of whether or not we get the grant. We then will enter into a planning phase with our service provider, and that will be from March to June. Starting in June, we start our actual planning for implementation over the summer. Once we start that planning for implementation, we start looking at master schedules, we start collaborating with chief of schools, principals, things of that nature for implementation purposes. Then we start from August to December with implementation, coaching, things of that nature. So this all starts ramping up pretty quickly about March.
Thank you.
Yes.
Trustee Colton.
So, Dr. Nix, will a contract be brought back to us after the grant is, awarded?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Do I have a motion to approve Sustain Ed as the approved provider for the LASSO Cycle 3 Strong Foundations Grant?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, we were at the questions. Please cast your votes. Thank you so much. Please cast your votes electronically. Motion carries 5-1. Thank you. We will now move to action item D, considering approval of the resolution of the board regarding wage payments during school closings, including premium pay. Presenter, Ms. Pam Brown.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Gorey. I'm here to present the resolution of the board regarding the wage payments for employees that happened with the inclement weather that we just experienced. Per board policy DEA local, during an emergency closure, all employees will continue to be paid unless otherwise noted. And following that closure, the board will adopt a resolution to pay the employees or to establish the parameters for the payment. And so with the recent school closures, we are now bringing their resolution to you at this time. Per the policy, all regular employees, and per the resolution, all regular employees that were instructed not to report to work due to the snow days or the inclement weather, whether they're salaried or non-salary, exempt or non-exempt, they would still be continued to be paid for those days without having to make them up. And this just helps to boost morale and ensure that there's no loss in payment, and it just provides fair and equal treatment to all employees. With any non-exempt staff who were required to work, and that's always very minimum, they are paid at a rate of 1.5 times the rate or time and a half, worked up to 40 hours, and anything outside of that, then they will receive the appropriate overtime, which is time and a half of the time and a half. But that was minimal, and we only had a few select employees that had to report to work that Saturday to check on different things to make sure that we were ready for that Monday morning, and they were in the operations department. All other non-exempt employees who were required to work, if somebody was asked to do something from home or to log in, then they're just paid their regular rate per the board resolution that will be paying all employees for the days when the district was closed. Are there any questions?
Do I have a motion to approve board resolution regarding wage payments during emergency school closing,
So
which
Second. I didn't let you finish.
which includes premium pay.
That's the important.
That's the important part.
It's been motioned.
Second.
I didn't hear.
I did it earlier.
It's been motioned in second.
I'm so excited.
Are there any questions, comments, or discussions? Trustee Savage Martin.
The recommended motion includes premium pay. And I didn't hear you talk about that.
Yes, ma'am. That's the rate of a time and a half for any employees that were, employees are paid the regular rate, which is just their normal hourly rate, but for any employees that were called in, then they're paid at time and a half.
Okay,
Because
so that's what you're
that's with the premium pay. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Any additional questions or comments? Please cast your votes electronically.
Thank you.
That took no time. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. We will now move to action item E, approval of education specifications, EdSpec, for Smith Early Learning Academy. Presenter, Dr. Andre Fields. I'm sorry, miss, I don't have my glasses on.
I received that. Thank you, Dr. Flowers, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Goree, and our waiting audience. As always, it is my great pleasure to come to you each month to talk about the exciting things that are happening with our bond program, and tonight is no different. Tonight, we are going to, first thing that I think I have several items, but tonight, first thing we want to do is to present to you for your approval the educational specifications for what we're calling Smith Early Learning Academy for our youngest scholars in Duncanville, our pre-K 3 year-old scholars. And so tonight, you have in your board book, I believe, the actual educational specifications before you. We are so delighted also to have with us tonight from Huckabee Architects, Ms. Julie Williams, who's one of the planners, and then Ms. Idalisa Camacho, who is our principal architect for this project. And so they're both here tonight really to walk you through what you have. We also have it on the screen, but we also put it in your board book. And as you know, board, and as I will yield the floor to them in just a moment, of course, with our long-range plan, and part of the bond, we conducted that back in the summer of 2023, and of course our awesome community voted to approve the bond package of $170 million. And with that, as we have worked through the bond, you may be familiar, we did this very same thing for the Career Technical Education Center at Duncanville High School, the specifications by law, by code, that we have to have in place. And you can imagine there's probably some similarities to the CTE building, but because we are going to have our youngest scholars in this particularly renovated building, there are some other specifications that we want you to approve. And so with that, I'm going to ask, I think Ms. Williams is going to come, or they both may come at this time, and then we'll be ready to answer any questions you may have.
Well, good evening, Madam President, Dr. Goree, members of the board. I get real emotional about this project, so excuse me if it shows. Duncanville is very special in my heart, and this particular project, when we started discussing it a year and a half ago, it was like, oh my gosh, Duncanville is going to experience something they've never had before. So in this specification, what we've done is we've identified its intent and purpose of the actual learning facility, which is a transformation from the Smith Elementary School to an early learning academy. The Early Learning Academy is going to house our youngest scholars, being our pre-K 3. This will give them the opportunity to be able to experience learning from a different perspective, where it's providing background knowledge in multiple layers. So not only is the facility itself going to be an educational tool that they will learn to interact with, but also the curriculum that'll be provided will be a major part of the design and the facilitation of teaching and learning. So within the educational specification, there are requirements that we are to address, which talks about the overall square footage, the amount of square footage that is dedicated to teaching and learning, the amount of spaces that are identified specifically as learning environments, and then any other types of environments that will be engaged in teaching and learning that may not be at 100%. What those could be is labs or collaboration areas, or what we have in this particular facility are experiences. We also have to identify how we're going to be able to load or how many occupants will be per each classroom for a designated period of time, and then the overall capacity for the campus itself. So within the educational specifications, we have identified all of that information in a broken down manner that you can read through. The first page is an executive summary. The second page identifies the folks that were involved in the planning. There are several folks that are here this evening that were instrumental in giving us guidance from the very beginning all the way through, and then our architectural team as well as our program manager partners. We have the district overview, which gives us the direction of the district's mission, vision, and values of what they want us to incorporate, as well as the project statement for this particular project. We have identified the information that is required of who the scholars will be, the time of day of the operational hours, the amount of square footage that is identified for teaching and learning, as well as the overall square footage, and then the level of flexibility. On this particular page, we also address our safety and security requirements, as well as what we call inclusive design. And the team gave us very strong directions that this is going to be a very inclusive environment, that all scholars will have access to teaching and learning at multiple layers and ways. And the final piece of it is your capacity and utilization. We have identified that there's going to be 18 occupants per each classroom. We also have four classrooms that are going to be designated for special education, and they have access to everything that our Streamline students will have. So it isn't a them and us, it's everything is very integrated, but the special requirements that our scholars with extended learning will also have that support system in place as well. That's the last page, yes.
Thank you.
Oh, is there any questions? I have to restrain myself because I get really excited about this project.
Do I have a motion to approve the educational specifications for the Smith Early Learning Academy as outlined in Texas Administration Code, Title 19, Part 2, Chapter 61, Subchapter CC?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any questions, comments, or discussions? Trustee Savage Martin.
I'm not going to explain to you how my brain works, but you'll see how it works because when I read the agenda, I went to the Mark Smith Teaching and Learning Center, I think is what we call it. And then here, once I got right, I heard teaching and learning. So am I the only one, maybe in the room, that gets confused, but of people? Am I the only one?
I don't know how to necessarily answer that, with the exception of the fact that we'll be bringing to you, board, the actual, if it's talking about the name of the building, the actual name of the building, because Smith Elementary is named after Clint Q. Smith. And so we plan to keep that. We're just for the sake of this presentation saying Smith, we're not going to change it. I know we've got the Dr. Mark Smith Teaching and Learning Center, and then we'll have the And we're going to bring names. We're just using this because we had to have something for the design. Smith Early Learning Academy.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Like,
All right.
that's how it works.
Those are the two different individuals these buildings will
Thank you.
continue to be named after. Are there other questions?
I have a question. The 4 rooms that are identified for special education, how do those rooms, are they differentiated in any type of way?
There may be, we have partnered with our special education department, and they've been involved in the design work and the discussions because, and you're going to hear a little bit more about this building in a presentation we're going to do a little later on. We're really excited about it. But the building is going to have 5 neighborhoods, and so those classes will be engaged in the neighborhood, so they'll have their non-disabled peers. They'll be a part of it. If we have students who perhaps need maybe a lift or something like that, the spaces will be adequate enough for us to have it because they are going to be a part of their neighborhood. And so they'll have partner teachers where they'll have collaboration with perhaps a special education teacher or early childhood teachers, and then along with their general ed peers. So if they need some accommodations physically, the design will take care of that. But the rooms and spaces will be adequate. They'll have plenty of space, even if we have students who are in wheelchairs, because that's part of this whole with the specifications that we make sure that it's handicap accessible, et cetera.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Thank you.
Yes.
Please cast your votes electronically. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. We will now move to action item F, review and approval of level of compliance statement for Smith Early Learning Academy. Continue with Ms. Fields.
Yes, and this is, of course, you have it board in front of you. I do not believe it is going to be on the screen, but you have the statement there of compliance that needs to be signed, and we're asking for your approval that we'll be able to submit this along with the approval that you've granted us for the specification. So this is basically a piece of paperwork that we have to have signed and approved by you.
Do I have a motion to approve the level of compliance statement for the Smith Early Learning Academy renovations as per the Texas Administrative Code, TAC, Title 19, Part 2, Chapter 61, Subchapter CC?
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any questions, discussions, or comments? Thank you, Ms. Fields. Please cast your vote electronically. Motion carries 6-0. We will now move to action item G, approval of competitive sealed proposals, Duncanville ISD, RFP number 25.002, multi-campus renovations, Alexander, Bill Hart's, Fair Meadows, Hyman, and Maryfields. Presenter, again, Ms. Fields.
Again, thank you, Dr. Flowers and board members and Dr. Goree. Again, this is just, it's becoming a reality, and I think that's the joy that we're feeling and sensing as we work each week or every other week or almost every day now with our partners. And I want to give a special thank you to LAN for their direction and support and guidance as we fulfill the dream that we have for these projects. So, way of background, of course, the district solicited proposals on November the 19th of 2024 for multi-campus renovations and for Alexander, Bill Hart's, Fair Meadows, Hyman, and Maryfield Elementaries. This was advertised, as we always do, in the Daily Commercial Record, which is the publication that many craftsmen and contractors review to see what kind of proposals are out there that they could submit for. And we had a pre-bid meeting that LAN, along with some of our staff, participated in, and we'll tell you there were 6 contractors that attended the pre-bid meeting. Of course, they review the scope of the projects, et cetera, with them. And as a result, we received 3 proposals seal proposals for this work. And this is the renovation work there that we will begin very, very shortly. Of course, on December the 2nd, they went over the scope as I've shared, and then the bid closed at 2 p.m. on December the 19th of 2024, and 3 general contractors submitted competitive seal proposals for us, one being Northridge Construction Group, Integrity Contractors, and JB and Company LLC. We received those, the bids closed, and our internal team, which included Ms. Mari Zamora, Mr. Joe Paterka, Ms. Brandy Mayo, our CFO, and Dr. Brian Brown and myself, we were requested to rate and score based on a rubric that was provided to us by LAN, and we scored singularly. And then we sent our individual scores, and they were compiled by LAN, and you have in front of you the rubric, the point values for each one of those items that we scored, and the total amount in which they submitted that they could do the projects for. And so you have that in front of you. I won't go into a lot of details. I'm sure you have already reviewed that. And at this time, the total project budget was $7.7 million. And tonight we are asking approval for Northridge Construction Group, who offered a proposal amount of $6,263,500 for the construction of the projects. And Northridge may be familiar to you because they bid on seal proposal, competitive proposal 1, and they were granted that, and they've already begun working in our district. And so because they came under budget by almost $1.5 million, they were, based on their relationship with us, based on, of course, the cost, we're trying to make sure we get the best value for the money for our projects. And so that is our recommendation. Mr. Kamar Hawk is here tonight from LAN. If you have any really specific detailed questions that I cannot answer about the projects or the process. And so that is our recommendation tonight. Any questions you may have?
Thank you. Do I have a motion to consider and take possible action to negotiate and enter into an agreement with Northridge Construction Group for the multi-campus renovations of Alexander, Bill Hart's, Fair Meadows, Hyman, and Merrifield?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any questions, comments, or discussions? None. Thank you. Please cast your votes electronically. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Ms. Fields.
Thank you.
We will now move to information and discussion items. The first item is Building the Future, Raising Champions. Presenter, Dr. Guri.
Thank you very much, Madam President and board members. Today, I'm very excited to come and speak about something that I've become more passionate about every day. You know, over the last 8 months, I've had the opportunity of traveling throughout this district, and rather visiting with board members, visiting with teachers, visiting with parents, with members of Education Foundation, Rotary Club members. One thing for sure is that everybody in this community, without a doubt, wants what's in the best interest of children, and they want to see our children grow and matriculate and achieve whatever they can dream of. They want to see them achieve that. You know, when we talk about this conversation about being a champion, and I was visiting with some of you earlier about, I realized as a new superintendent that this is not something that just began 5 years ago when we won a state championship. This is not something that just began a few 10 years ago, even when we may have won a championship in basketball. But this is something that has been a culture of this community for more than 50 years, easily, that I can measure. And it's certainly my work every day, and certainly the work of my staff, to do everything we can to continue to cultivate that championship spirit. But most importantly, we want to make sure that every child has an opportunity to grow through our system and to have the opportunity to become a champion. In that respect, I was very fortunate as a superintendent. I'm so thankful to the community for passing a $170 million bond. It's not every superintendent that has the luxury of coming into a system and having that much money at their disposal as they talk about what does the future look like for this school system. I think so often when we talk about bond dollars, it's easy to get caught up in the money. It's easy to get caught up in the construction. But what I want to do is begin a 2-year conversation, a campaign around how do we make sure that the bond dollars are not just about buildings, that it's not just about construction, but most importantly, it's about utilizing these dollars to raise champions. It's about building the future of what this district will look like. And I do believe a 24-month window will give us a head start on where we want to be in the future. So in that respect, over the next 24 months, you will hear this saying, you will hear presentations, and a lot of them will be around things as it relates to our bond. What I can tell you about tonight is we're really excited to talk to you a little bit about reconfiguration of our current grade structure and how we feel that's going to lead to a better future outcome for children. We're going to talk about the renovation of buildings, and tonight, we're also going to talk about the rezoning of attendance boundaries that will require an action of the board in February. In fact, that's probably the only thing that we'll talk about tonight that will be an action item in February. But I also want you to know that as we go into coming months, we're going to talk about human capital as well as our cost containment and how all of this work is built around building the future and raising of champions. Ultimately, our goal is to make sure that we provide a championship learning opportunity for every child every day so that they can excel at whatever they choose to do. Tonight we'll begin with I'm not going to read the bullet points to you because the bullet points are just an overview of some of the things that you can expect to hear as our presenters come tonight. We'll begin with the reconfiguration and the whys behind that. That's going to come from Dr. Goodman. We're then going to move to renovation, which will come from Ms. Fields. And finally, Mr. Graham will come and speak to us about rezoning and also provide us with some information as timelines to what we need to do as far as our rezoning as we move forward. Each speaker will pause Madam President, with your pleasure, we'll pause at each section so that the questions can be fresh since it is a lengthy presentation. I will remind, you do have a copy of the presentation in front of you, so please feel free to follow along and write those questions, and certainly we'll be available to answer those questions. This time I'd like to invite Dr. Goodman, who will begin our presentation with reconfiguration.
Good evening, President Dr. Flowers, Board, and Dr. Goree. Thank you for allowing me to share with you the why and how of our plan to reconfigure schools while we build the future and raise champions. Research indicates that maximizing the number of school transitions a student experiences can positively impact their academic achievements, social emotional well-being, and overall sense of belonging. When students remain in one school for longer periods, they experience continuity in curriculum and teaching models, leading to better academic performance. Additionally, their families feel more connected and really engage with the educators more in that building, leading to stronger school and community relationships. By reconfiguring our grade bands, we will have the opportunity to better align our resources, including our curriculum and our human capital. Curriculum materials are typically designed to match our new reconfiguration structure, meaning that K-5 or elementary curriculum is sold together, and there's a different curriculum used for 6th through 8th grades, which are considered secondary. Currently, we have intermediate campus teachers and leaders who are navigating needing knowledge and skills in both sets of materials. The repositioning of grades 5 and 6 into elementary and middle grade bands will allow us to better align those resources. Another example of how this shift will impact our campuses can be seen in how we currently serve our emergent bilingual students and how we will service them in the future. The change will allow us to service our 5th graders as an elementary dual language model and our 6th graders as a secondary English as a second language program, which requires a different certification. What this could do for us is assist us in our staffing at that area, which is already a very challenging to fill area. One thing that families often mention to us is they're wanting their students to be together for longer at the same campus. By decreasing transitions, we will increase the opportunities for siblings to be together. Each elementary campus will continue to have a signature or choice focus, a choice program, allowing our students to have exposure and access to varied programs. This plan will also allow us to keep traditional neighborhood schools, allowing students to continue attending schools that are near their homes. A bonus to our reconfiguration plan is that as we continue to align our resources, we will be better equipped to reduce duplications of materials and programs, which will allow us to operate in a more financially sound manner. So as you see on the screen, and I'll go ahead and let you know that further in the presentation, you will see a different graphic of this that will reiterate these changes. As you see on the screen, all pre-K through 8th grade campuses will be reconfigured in some form or fashion. We will reposition our current intermediate grade levels, moving 5th grade to elementary and 6th grade to middle schools, creating a model for pre-K through 5th grade as elementary campuses and 6th through 8th grade as middle schools. Although all campuses will be reconfigured in some manner, as you see on the screen, the campuses that are highlighted gold, those campuses will undergo major configuration shifts. Central will become an elementary standalone choice program for kindergarten through 5th grade students. Daniel and Hardin will transition from serving 5th and 6th grade students into being an elementary campus serving pre-K through 5th grade students. Smith will become our early learning academy, as you just heard, and it will service our pre-K 3 students as well as our early childhood programs for children with special needs. Finally, as with Daniel and Hardin, Brandenburg will transition to becoming from being a 5th and 6th grade campus to becoming a standalone middle school choice program, which essentially could feed students from our Central Academy. Next, you will hear from Mrs. Andre Fields regarding campus renovations. And as we go throughout this presentation this evening, you will get more details regarding how the campus reconfiguration will be implemented. But before I transition, I would like to answer any questions specific to reconfiguration of our grade bands.
Looks like we don't have any questions. I have a comment. Thank you so much for mentioning the research, because it does highlight students that are in schools for 2 years, whether it's middle school or just 5th and 6th. Their grades plummet, the emotional stability, because the transition is so swift and there's not as much buy-in from parents or students or teachers because the kids are not going to be there that long. So thank you for mentioning that, and I'm proud that we're moving in that direction.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Goodman. Again, as I said earlier, I'm excited to present this portion regarding renovations. Board, you just approved the competitive steel package number 2, and the campuses are there. We're thankful again to our community for their support in this wonderful effort for our scholars. And I just wanted to highlight some things in regard to these multi-campus renovations. These will include, this is not everything, but most of the renovations here in refresh will receive new flooring, paint, some new roofs. As you know, Bird's already gotten a new roof already. Some will have roof replacements, HVAC replacements. Alexander has already received their new rooftop units because we took care of that, I think, over Thanksgiving or Christmas. I can't recall now. Of course, ADA compliant ramps and handrails. We have need for that on some of our campuses. And even in the previous bond, we did do some restroom refresh and upgrades. We still have some others for handicap accessibility that we need to work on. And then there will be a part of this will have some refresh of exterior landscaping. We just note about that when we get to Kennemer, we want to do something outside where those planters are to try to kind of make that a little bit, have more curb appeal. So we've been talking about that. So this work will begin this spring, and it's almost spring. The work will begin on this renovation projects in the spring and complete it prior to school starting of 2026. And of course, you've heard the excitement about Smith Early Learning Academy, which is to open August of 2026. And you're going to see a little bit more detail about these campuses. Central, you just heard Dr. Goodman talk about being Central Elementary Academy to be a fine arts academy. Brandenburg, and we are anticipating this campus to open in August of 2027 to give us time for the transition from our possibly 5th graders going into 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And of course, Duncanville High School's Career Technology building, which will open August of 2026. So I want to talk about Central specifically, the historic Central Elementary, the work. We're excited about this particular project because, of course, we know the history behind Central Elementary. You see there, Board, what the allocation is for this project, $20+ million. We anticipate the work to begin this summer with the substantial completion of 2026. We are, and I want to say this on mic, we are maintaining the front facade of the campus, and that's a picture of it there, the black and white photo. This building will get a new roof. We will complete renovations to the inside, include classrooms. One of the things that we've been talking about, we met last Thursday about the auditorium, the way they're going to reconfigure it. We should gain about 50 seats in that auditorium. Even though it's small, it won't be like a Shine or an Alexander, but the way it will be reconfigured, we will be able to get about 50 additional seats there. Because this campus has already secured the Changing Education through the grant, grant from the Kennedy Center, they've already begun a little fine arts work there, and so they already have a piano lab, and we're going to have a dedicated space for them. They won't have to share their space with the piano lab, and you saw the ballet folklorica, a sample size, I'll say tonight, we're working on the floor for them so they can practice not only for them, but other genres of dance will be available. We're going to have a new kiln there for them for fine arts, and a production lab where I think they're already producing their announcements every day. So we wanted to try to highlight and have a space for that. They'll get new signage. And the one thing we are doing is relocating the main entry point with a new secure vestibule. And it's going to really be, looking at the building, it's going to be to the west side, close to the cafeteria. That's where the public and families will enter instead of those historic doors on the front because we want a larger space where we're going to put the secure vestibule with the staff there to greet our families and our scholars. Brandenburg, as we've already talked about, and Dr. Goodman has mentioned this, will be a middle school academy, and we're giving a little bit more time to Brandenburg because we want to make sure it's done right, and then we want to make sure we have the program right for Brandenburg as a middle school academy focusing on fine arts. I'm so thankful to Mr. Doucet for his input in both of these campuses, really, because we want this to be state-of-the-art choice for our families so that they know we have something special in Duncanville. With Brandenburg, we're going to keep Grace Brandenburg, the name there, and we're going to maintain the facade. There's some work that needs to be done. Y'all know they have those, I call them cross ties, Coach, I don't know what they're called, planters out there. We're going to remove those to give that school some more curb appeal, repair the existing roof. Our roof consultant, they don't need a new roof, but they do need some work done, some repair there, finish the guardrails, handrails, and of course they too will get a really total renovation, including their classrooms. Because this school is going to become an 8th grade campus, they have to have a dedicated science labs, and so we'll be putting those in place. The plans that are going forth has science labs there. Refresh to their auditorium. They're going to have production space. This campus is going to have a lot going on with drama, dance, choir. Mr. Doucet's helped us with all the instruments. He's working on the lockers for the instruments and what they need. A new kiln, they have one, but they're going to get a new one. And then they're going to install a new black box there for the theater. At Brandenburg, makeup room, dressing rooms, and so we look forward to the work that's going to be done at Brandenburg Middle Academy. So we're thankful again for the work and all the partners and input from the school leadership and staff members. And then lastly, of course, everybody, I know Ms. Williams talked about how excited she is about the Smith Early Learning Academy. And I want to just highlight, we've been working on this project for months, and the early childhood staff members have been a part of the conversation along. So we came collectively together to create this statement about what we want to see at Smith Early Learning, and you have it there in the gold at the top, a place where the students develop into lifelong learners through exploration. I think you heard them talk about the experiential classrooms, for play, because they're 3, a learning in child-centered, colorful, safe environment. We want this to be very print and literacy rich, cultivate excitement and welcoming to all learners. And we are really excited about this project. If you have ever visited the Jandruco School in Mansfield, it won't be quite like that, but we did visit several pre-K early learning centers across the Metroplex, and we have some great ideas about that. We'll maintain the facade, complete renovations. They're going to have 18 classrooms and 9 experiential classrooms. And I want to make sure that I say this. I talked about the neighborhoods earlier in the themes. And this also aligns with TEA's pre-K guidelines for students. So all of our early childhood experts have been a part of this conversation. The neighborhoods, we chose trees aligning with the 4 seasons. And so you're going to, when you go there, you'll see the different neighborhoods will have, one neighborhood's going to have the same season twice because there are 4 seasons and 5 neighborhoods. So, but that's okay. Use of primary colors, trees, and this building will have a lot of interaction. The library will not be central. It's going to be a kind of a deployed library within the classrooms. They'll have a space. They'll have a lot of reading nooks, textures on the wall. You're going to see trees everywhere. It's going to have trees where they can hide inside, all of those fun things. And they will have, the wayfinding will be trees. So it'll be, if you're in the red neighborhood, you'll follow on the floor, the walls, et cetera, and new signage. So we are extremely excited about this. It lines up with our Frog Street curriculum that we use. And so with that, I think I am done. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Graham unless you have some questions from me. Yes, ma'am.
Trustee Fahey?
Thank you. Ms. Fields, with Smith being as large as it is now, but not, the enrollment's down, how many 3-year-olds? That's only going to be a school, a campus for 3-year-olds, right? The 4-year-olds are going to be elementary. How many 3-year-olds are we expecting? I really didn't think we had that many, but.
According to the statistics, we have to turn down some 3-year-olds because we don't have the space on the regular campuses. So the capacity, and I'm going off my, the school can hold 300 plus students, 18 classrooms, but we limit pre-K 3 to 18 students. Right. We want the class sizes to be smaller. So my math whiz people back here probably already got the 18 times. How many? 324. So we have pre-K 3 out on the regular classroom along with our early childhood special education students. We have them, we want to bring them aboard, and we want to compete with the neighborhood daycares.
Well, are these half day or full day?
Full day.
3-year-olds?
All day.
Oh, moms and dads will like that.
All day long. And so that's another choice that we have. A recruiting tool for our staff members, because you can bring your child to this wonderful, enriching program, and it's going to be beautiful. You all are going to be very proud.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Ms. Fields.
Thank you.
All right, greetings once again to the board, Dr. Flowers, Dr. Gorey. Ms. Fields got me excited about this building, so I do appreciate that. But now we've come to a time and we've arrived at the most exciting part of the night. It's time to talk about the rezoning plan, and of course this is the last and final plan that we'll talk about tonight as we build the future and raise champions. By realigning our attendance zone, we ensure better access and opportunities for all students in Duncanville ISD. Rezoning in Duncanville ISD is about making the most of our 28 square mile district, which already boasts 18 school buildings and 19 schools. But wisely using all of the 16,000 seats that we currently have, we have about 72% filled at this time. Our goal is to optimize resource allocation, balance student population, and of course, enhance our educational opportunities for all students. The process, we begin analyzing the latest demographic data and capacity studies. This helped us gain a clear understanding of both our current student population and enrollment trends. Our operations team then confirmed our facility capacities, making sure each campus can effectively serve our students. This setup ensures that our planning remains accurate and efficient. We then met with our special education departments and our pre-K departments to address the unique learning requirements of these students. By considering their needs early on, we can provide the best possible support and accommodations. Our innovation teams created choice programs tailored to the new feeder patterns. The student services and counseling departments have collaborated to develop transfer protocols and course plans. This ensures a smooth transition for any student who may need to change schools and adjust their coursework during the rezoning process. Our HR department is evaluating staff allocations. They'll be moving and reallocating employees wherever necessary to support our new campus configuration. And some people that I left off are our PEMS department, our transportation department, and they probably have the hardest job if this plan is approved. As we looked at our committee, in October of 2024, a committee of about 30 members, including staff, parents, students, and community leaders, began meeting to discuss rezoning. 7 committee meetings were held in total, which Templeton Demographics provided mapping and data review of the proposed changes. We have been using Templeton Review for the last 4 years to do our demographic studies. The resulting plan was presented to the senior leadership team on December 10, 2024. Now, what is the impact of rezoning in Duncanville ISD? While approximately 900 students will experience attendance zone changes, this shift would lead to a more efficient transportation plan, ensuring students spend less time commuting and more time learning. Additionally, each school will benefit from a clear feeder pattern and new attendance zones, creating stronger school communities and improving our educational continuity. Now, what does the current boundaries in Duncanville look like? As you look at the map of our current elementary boundaries, you'll notice several arrows pointing to what we call islands. These are areas where students attend campuses far from the closest school, causing inefficient transportation routes and enrollment challenges. While a large island are clearly visible on the chart, there are a few smaller ones that are not shown on the chart. Next, you'll see Central and Smith Elementary. As Dr. Goodman mentioned, both of these campuses will be reconfigured and go offline next year. Our next slide is the proposed elementary boundaries. You can see these boundaries remove those islands of students, resulting in more efficient transportation routes, clearer projections for campus enrollment. An important change that both Hardin and Daniel have now been designated as elementary campuses. Additionally, most attendance zones have been reshaped to ensure better access and equity for every school and student. Next, we evaluated multiple plans to confirm each campus meets our capacity and utilization goals. If you look at the enrollment numbers, you'll notice many campuses currently show available space. However, these figures only include the students that live within those current attendance zones. Historical data tells us that out-of-school district transfers and choice program students will boost the enrollment, bringing most of the campuses to over 80% utilization. Next, you will see our current middle school and intermediate school zones. As previously mentioned, the intermediate schools will be reconfigured, eliminating the additional transition for students. Also, note the current size of our middle school boundaries, which will be a key in the plans for our new boundaries. Our next slide shows the proposed middle school boundaries. Here you can see what they look like. While the shape and size of each boundaries have significantly changed, we've worked hard to keep most students in their current attendance zones. In fact, only around 900 students will be directly affected by these changes. Notice that Reed Middle School now extends to the northernmost part of the district, while Byrd Middle School has gained that area previously belonging to Reed Zone in the south. And just like you saw with the elementary capacity, there is still potential room for more students at the middle school level. These figures only include students who live within the proposed attendance zones. However, based on historical data, we will anticipate higher enrollment once out-of-school district transfers and choice program students are factored in. And now, our new feeder patterns. I'm pleased to share with you the possible feeder patterns for Duncanville ISD. First, we have the bird feeder pattern, which will encompass Daniel Elementary, Hastings Elementary, Alexander, and Bill Hart's. The Kennemer feeder pattern will encompass Hyman, Acton, and Bill Hart's. The Reed pattern will have Merrifield, Hardin, and Fair Meadows Elementary. Of course, as Ms. Fields discussed, we do have new campuses that will open in 2026. First, Smith Early Learning Academy will open in 2026-27, along with Central Academy, which will open in 26-27. Following the following year, Brandenburg Middle School Academy will open. And of course, they all feed to our flagship high school, Duncanville. Next is our transfer options. Whenever you do or move attendance zones, of course, students have to be given options. Some students that are impacted, all of the students that are impacted will be automatically enrolled into their new home campus initially. Students are eligible, however, that are in the 4th, 5th, and 8th grade can apply to remain at their current campus. They will receive a rezoning application. If those students have siblings that would like to remain at the campus as well that are not in those grades, they will fill out a sibling rezoning application. The application links will go live, if approved, on February 24th, 2025. Next is the impact on our transportation department. Currently, we have 4 tiers in our transportation department. Again, with removing the intermediate tier, we will only have 3 tiers of bus routes, creating more efficiencies in our transportation department. Transportation will be provided for our choice students that are in district, our eligible bus riders that live 2 miles away from the school, and our special education if qualified through an ARP. Transportation will not be provided for students impacted by rezoning who apply to remain at their original campus. And finally, as we look at the plan going forward, if this plan is approved, and starting actually after that particular day, we will have a general communication plan for our district. Several community meetings will be scheduled. A website will be developed with information and FAQs. Of course, we'll have our parent communication, a letter to our grandfather current students with the option to stay. Those are students that are currently in the 3rd, 4th, and 7th grade. And of course, we will send out student transfer communication. Those are students that are LOE, the limited open enrollment students, and our intra-district transfer students. Those will receive that. We will clarify the transfer criteria for those particular students. At this time, that is the end of the presentation, and what questions do we have?
Trustee Fahey?
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Currently, the way the plans are set up and the maps of the map of the elementary school does not include Central because that won't be open until the next school year. Will the zones be changed then? Because Central's not even listed on this current elementary.
That
It's
is
a choice
wonderful.
school. It's a theater, the
Yes.
arts and all, but it's still an elementary school.
Yes, that is a wonderful question and something that I did not mention in our feeder pattern slide. When Central and Brandenburg open, those schools will not have an attendance zone. That is, they are full choice campuses, which means that any student from across the district can attend those campuses and they will receive transportation
Okay, just
across the community.
from the
across district.
past, it just seems like most of the kiddos who will be going to Central will probably be those who live close by. Okay, enough fuss about that. The proposed middle school boundaries, looking at it from a transportation and mileage, it just looks like birds. I don't know, I don't like the southern boundary of Reed, and then the west boundary of Byrd. I don't know, it just looks it looks strange to me, and I'm sure demographics and not transportation and gasoline probably entered into this, but it just looks weird to me. That's-
A few things went into creating those boundaries. Of course, first you looked at the number of students and capacity of the campus. We wanted to make sure there was an equal amount of students at each campus, which means that you had to change and take away and add to certain campuses. Kennemer, we took away some of the boundaries for Kennemer and made it a little bit smaller, but of course Reed and Byrd actually got a little bit bigger. Next, we looked at transportation and efficiencies that are involved in creating those boundaries. Again, you want as many students that live close to the campus that can walk as possible within that 2-mile radius. And then you start looking at, okay, let's see what type of efficient transportation routes we can create for those students. And of course, we're always looking at the school capacity. Thirdly, you're looking at how many students, how much space is actually on the campus to determine how many students we can fit into that campus.
Okay, I just think it looks weird. One last question about our lovely portables. It looks like most of our campuses will not have 100%. I mean, it looks like we're gonna have some empty space. Can we start ridding Duncanville ISD of some portables? Don't shoot me down.
No, we're going to need the portable buildings, and we'll be bringing that information to you shortly because, as you know, we're renovating the 9th grade wing at Duncanville High School. And so while we're doing that, we're going to have to move students. That's a lot of students. So all of the portable buildings that we have that are in good shape and can be moved, we will only have to rent a few. I know that that'll be at the high school. I won't go into a lot of detail, but all of those will be moved once we finish the CTE building and the students are in the renovation, they move back. We hope to bring a proposal to you that we can sell those.
I would love to see Smith
All of them gone.
and Brandenburg. Some of them are, to me, distractions.
Mhm.
And
We're going to use them because they're ours.
I understand.
But after we finish the project, we hope, fingers crossed, that we will be able to expose of those. We're going to leave the Panther Pantry alone. We won't be moving those two. But the others, there are enough portables in our district to support that. So yes, ma'am, I understand. We want to try to move our students inside the buildings.
You think about storms and just, it's the environment, and they're ugly.
Any additional? Trustee Colton? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation. So getting to Trustee Fahey's question, I know, we have a map showing proposed elementary boundaries, but for those schools that are going to be district-wide, could they just not be added to this map just in the corner or something, district-wide schools, so we know, that they're in the mix?
We can definitely do that. We didn't do that this time because we wanted to show the major changes that would happen next year, but we can definitely add that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then how did school performance play into the district the school boundaries, if anything?
School performance didn't play much into the decision on the boundaries, but we did look at the numbers of students that are special education or any other type of program to determine if there's equity across the district on the campuses. That is something we looked at.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering, like, for those, I believe it's 5 schools, and somebody can correct me.
What's the question?
Our great superintendent. We have.
What's the question?
Yes. Can you help me with that?
Yes. The schools that were in program improvement.
CIRUIR.
Yes.
You are correct. You are correct.
Okay. And then I saw where there's a committee of 30 individuals that provided input into the process. So I'm just wondering about, excuse me, like additional parental and student comments on, redrawing the lines and all of that. Did we do a survey, and the communications plan that we're gonna roll out, is it going to, what does that look like? And where are these meetings going to be conducted? And how, will the parents and students be notified? Because that's a big part of, what we're doing.
I'm going to let Mr. Graham provide you with a lot of that information because he's worked directly with that. One thing I will tell you is that we did have a robust committee that did work through this. One thing too, and really excited to, my first time working with, of course, district has worked with the Templeton group for the last 4 years around your demographic study. So I think even when you create those maps that look odd, they have a real good knowledge of the community. And two, they're factoring in growth and future growth. And how do we balance the attendance zones in a fashion that we don't have to come back to this conversation, because this is not one of our favorite things to talk about as a system. Nevertheless, what I will say is that we did have an additional parent meeting last week. We do look even in the next month. Why we thought it important that we present this as information a month before you vote on this is that will give the community an opportunity to express their feelings around that. And there will be meetings. We will have at least one more public meeting even before we get to your vote in February around the attendance zone. I'll let Mr. Graham come back with some more around the specifics around communications. If there's anything else. Okay. I think that's it for now. One thing I will tell you though too, even when we talk about the 2-year campaign around building the future, raising champions, there will be a complete communication guide for everything that we do over the next 24 months. And that will be very scripted. So we have a principal toolkit around that, and it will be a parent toolkit. We talked about the website. We talked about frequent asked questions. We're going to build this entire campaign around making sure that we engage as many stakeholders as possible as we build the future for our students.
Okay, and then how will transportation be impacted? What is that? I know it translates into fewer students needing transportation, I assume. Can you elaborate on that?
A few things. First of all, the tiers. As we stated, the first thing that will happen is you eliminate you reconfigure the intermediate schools. Therefore, you don't need that tier. So it goes from 4 tiers to 3 tiers. Now hopefully, we have more students that live closer to their campuses now, not going all the way across the district, and that will decrease the amount of transportation we need for certain students, which now the buses, since we sometimes we need a few more bus drivers at times, we'll say it in that manner, it allows us to use the bus drivers we have more efficiently and get to those students.
Okay, so could you elaborate on numbers? Or just, estimates?
As far as number of students that are riding buses?
Yeah, that would be, yes. What is the impact?
We don't currently have that information, but we will give that information to you.
So while there are less than 10% of the students that are impacted by the, based on the numbers somebody else gave, 800 and something, and we have 12,000 students, so we have about 9%, 8% of our students that are impacted.
One of our, and what you're describing was one of our main goals with this, was for this to impact as few families as possible. And please know, we went back time and time again to look at it. If we move this street, how many kids can we take off that list? So we did look at impacting as few families as possible. Really excited to go to a 3-tier system versus 4 for our buses with those different start times, and we're working through that. So I think that's going to help too. But we will work to get that answer to the transportation part around that.
Trustee Fahey?
Thank you. I will say that between my first tenure on the board and then this one, I was the chairman of a rezoning committee when we built Hyman and Bill Hart's. And the community really had great impact. I remember two big meetings, and I thought I was going to be stoned out of town or whatever. But parents had some real good ideas, and we did listen to them. However, the demographic company hit it on the head. People were saying, we don't need a little Hyman Elementary. There aren't any houses out there. Well, now it's overflowing. I mean, so the demographic studies are very, very important. So, and I realize that too with the gasoline and bus routes and that stuff. Thank you for your time.
Trustee Savage Martin.
I only noticed it, yeah, because you don't have them listed on the proposed middle school boundaries. Thank you. The schools are not the elementaries are not in the right place.
Yeah, they may not be.
Okay. Alexander is not on that side of 67. Hardin is not that far over.
They were just
It's
putting
over
them in
by
the general.
Reed. So,
Yes.
before you go to the public, which
Yes, ma'am.
this is kind of public, we need to fix up.
Hardin and Central are almost next door to each other.
Yes.
You know, really.
It was just to get the general area and the name, we put them in that, but yes, you're correct. We will correct that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam President. As we close, I would like to just, a couple things I'd like to reiterate quickly. First off is that, when we talk about Central and Brandenburg and them having no attendance zone, we do believe those will be our opportunities to be competitive. It will be our opportunity to first keep our children in our district. We're still losing a sizable number of children, more than 3,000 children, to other educational opportunities. We see this as an opportunity to attract them back to our system. We see the same thing being true with attracting other students to our system to take advantage of those choice programs. I think we all hear the word choice a lot, and we know that that's very important to many families, and we want to make sure that not only are we offering a great neighborhood opportunity, but great choice opportunities. In March, we will come with a presentation coming around our Champions Choice, which is our program designed to directly speak to making sure that we're offering the best choices for our students in our school system. But again, this presentation today and this campaign is really just about how do we make sure that every decision we make is embedded in what's best for children, and how do we create a future that does raise champions in our system. So thank you, and look forward to many other presentations in this space. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Goree. We will move to the information discussion agenda item C, budget update by Ms. Brandy Mayo.
Good evening again, Dr. Flowers, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Goree. So I just want to I think this is the most exciting part of the agenda, Mr. Grant. So the intention here is to provide the board an update on the general fund. And so a couple of board meetings ago, Dr. Bigby did provide an update around the general fund and cost containment. So I'm going to elaborate on that as well for everyone. So Dr. Goree kind of stole my thunder here with his legislative update, so we'll skip through this. But as soon as bill filing began on November 12th, they were out the door with House and Senate bills. And as you know, most of, some of these won't pass. So in the last legislative session, about a little over 8,000 bills were filed and only 1,200 were passed. And so that's about 15%. So right now there is a lot going on. There's a lot of bills that have been passed right now, but our business community that I am regularly involved in right now is tracking about 656 of the total, about 2,500 bills that are out there now. So there are a great majority of those are property tax bills, and then we do have some school finance bills, and then of course vouchers. So we will be watching as we go through this legislative session So the first day of regular session was January 14th, and the session will end on June 2nd. And if it's anything like our last experience, there'll be multiple special sessions. So we will dig out our crystal balls and see how we're going to go through this year. This is just a quick finance history of Duncanville ISD, which you all know because many of you have been here. But really, I wanted to kind of share this slide with you. So from 2021 all the way to 23-24, the budget, the actual expenses have historically outperformed the original adopted budget. And so the goal is that to share with the board is, while we maybe had in the past been projecting a negative impact to fund balance, we had far exceeded that. So in 2021, the actual expenditures were greater, but when I reviewed the budget data for 2021 and 21-22, the board made planned expenditures for capital improvements. And so basically, as the board went through the year, they saw opportunities within fund balance to make necessary updates to district facilities. And so those were planned experiences and were voted on and approved by the board. In 22-23 and 23-24, we were able to allocate payroll dollars over into ESSER, which was able to show that we could have an increase in fund balance in 2023 and in 2024. So as you all know, ESSER ended on September 30th of 2024, and so we can no longer rely on those dollars. So in last fiscal year, in the spring, the board reviewed and made decisions to review some positions and to follow staffing allocations on the elementary campuses, and did some deep budget review to make some changes that positively impacted the fund balance you see there and the budget that we're experiencing this year. So with those decisions and that fiscal responsibility of the board, I'm going to share with you some updated information on where we are today. This is the kind of the audited financials. This is a slide that you saw during our audited financial presentation. I really just, the point of this is kind of to bring your attention down to the total ending fund balance for 2024 is 71.8. So we started this year with $71.8 million. Almost all of that is unassigned fund balance, so it's fund balance that we can use to measure our economic stability. So at the start of this year, we were right at 6 months of fund balance. So I think TEA does say that we need 2 months. It is fiscally responsible by most credit agencies to say that we need 3 months, so we are far exceeding that. And it just shows to the support in the decisions that have been made by the board and the community to give Duncanville ISD a strong foundation. So 2 drivers of Texas school district revenue is the local tax rate and average daily attendance. So these are the 2 things that we'll talk about the most, and we'll be focused on our general fund revenue. So the local tax rate is made up of 2 components. So we have the maintenance and operations piece, and I'll show you a breakdown of this in just a minute, but we have the maintenance and operations piece that funds our daily operations. So our staff, our supplies and materials, transportation, utilities, it's what we do, the money we use to operate every single day. And then the INS rate is the rate that we use to fund debt service. And I'm sure you saw many presentations about this as you were going for bond passage. The other key component of that is average daily attendance, which Dr. Gorey alluded to also earlier in our efforts to increase average daily attendance. But as you know, we budget on enrollment because we have to make sure that we've accounted budget for every student, but we only get funded by the state on average daily attendance. So that's why that percentage is so important. So here is our tax rate history. So in prior years, the Duncanville ISD's community supported the district by allowing them to go out through voter approval to have the maximum M&O tax rate. So that is just an outstanding commitment to Duncanville ISD, and it just shows the community support and the fiscal integrity of the Duncanville ISD board. So as you can see from 2019, from legislature passed in that legislative session, there's been tax rate compression on the M&O side ever since then. And then the red piece there is the INS tax rate, and there has been some reduction in INS tax rate that the board has made a decision to give back to the community to ease their tax rate burden. And so that just really is just kind of attributed to the strong commitment Duncanville ISD also has to our community. And then in 2024, you'll see an increase of the red to 0.3605, and that's directly related to the passage of the bond. So this is where we talk about I wanted to give you just some information on enrollment, and then as that relates to our ADA, and then how we're kind of planning and forecasting for revenue going forward in the future. This is just a quick slide out of the Zonda presentation that was presented to the board last spring. If you look over in the total column, and now we're in 24-25, you'll see that Zonda had anticipated about 11,634 students for this fiscal year. They were right on target as of snapshot by about 65 kids, I think. So that is really great work, and I think it's work that we can look towards to be making future decisions. But as you see, and as you well know, we are showing a decline in student enrollment, and so that does relate to reductions in revenue as we move forward. In addition to that, our total refund ADA percentages are also declining. And so this has been an issue that districts all over the state have faced since the pandemic. And I'll show you some data to talk about that. But as you can see in 1920, there's a dip there. And so what happened is in the pandemic, students quit coming to school. And so we have not recovered, districts in the state have not recovered. And so this is also attributing to the loss of revenue, which ends up to us not being able to adequately fund our budget as we're seeing in this fiscal year. These are my forecast projections, so as I come back to you, I'll update them as we go through our grading periods to see if we see any changes. So as I said before, this is not just a Duncanville ISD problem, this is a state of Texas public education problem. So our current school funding system does not account for inflation. So when I said back before, the last change in state allocation that we have gotten to our basic allotment was in 2019. So since that increase in basic allotment, inflation has surged over 22%. So our payments from the state have roughly stayed the same while our expenses have skyrocketed. Unfunded and underfunded state mandates. We know that we've had many mandates from the state that have come through the legislative session in response to the pandemic for safety and security and things of that nature, and they are either unfunded or underfunded, or were to be relied on ESSER, which we no longer have. ESSER funds have run out. Schools are still struggling to find resources to continue the work. We still have gaps in education. We still have challenges with students with ADA, and the funds are no longer there. And then statewide declines in student enrollment due to students leaving the district and chronic absenteeism. And that chronic absenteeism is what directly relates to ADA. So as you can see in 2023, 43% of Texas schools reported a budget deficit, and in 2024, 50% of them did. As we continue, we can see about 80% of the 313 school districts in Texas face challenges with budget deficits. And so, again, this is not a Duncanville ISD thing. The board in this community has done everything they can to prepare the district to have adequate funding by increasing the M&O tax rate, making fiscally responsible decisions, and we still are facing these challenges. And so I just wanted to highlight this slide because I thought it was very, very important to our staff here, to the board, and to our community, is that when we're talking about staff reallocations, staff reductions through attrition, these items listed here, this is a statewide thing. So we are facing the challenges like everyone else and are having to focus on these changes to accommodate the deficits that we're facing. So brings us to our 24-25 budget review. And so in 23-24, you can see our audited actuals. We did end up with a net positive impact to fund balance, and the grand majority of that was due to ESSER reallocations. We did have some payroll saves, and we were able to manage those things and reduce the budget for 24-25. As you can see now, we're still showing a deficit of $18.9 million, but I would like to put that in perspective. Payroll vacancy saves estimated at approximately $6 million. So that's really just based on historical normal business. And when I talk about vacancy saves, what I'm saying is not necessarily tons of positions that lie vacant for a long period of time. It's really positions, as you know, you leave someone, it might take you a month or 2 months to find a replacement. Well, every single time that happens, there's a chunk of money that's saved in vacancy. Sometimes it might take 6 months to find a position or a little bit longer, but that is what we're talking about in normal estimated vacancy saves, and those are likely to occur in any given year. Reclass payroll to ESSER. So this year, ESSER ended on September 30th of 2024. So from July 1st to September 30th, we were able to reallocate a chunk of money over into ESSER to finish out the grant there. And then estimated non-payroll saves are probably, I anticipate, around $2 million. And that doesn't mean our campuses and departments aren't spending their money. It just simply means that their plans maybe didn't get realized before the end of the fiscal year, or they had a change in need, and so things kind of ebb and flow. But that's just normal business. So if we were just going to anticipate saves for normal business, off of that $18 million, our general fund balance would still be around 5 months of average expenses. And so I think the point that we're looking at here is, while we do need to make changes, and we all know that, we do need to review where we can make saves to our budget for long-term planning, we might have a little more time than we initially believed. We can't operate on negative budgets forever. I don't think we want to do that either, but we want to have time to make thoughtful decisions that are supportive and kid-focused and impact academic success. Because while we have to focus on reductions of the budget, we also have to make investments into our students. And so we have to find what that balance is. And so I think it gives the opportunity for the district and administration to make those thoughtful decisions. As we say that, Dr. Gorey came up with the initiative of cost containment, which is a response to the lack of funding by the legislature, quite frankly. So the cost containment committee has met. Dr. Bigby presented on a survey that came out of cost containment committee. It's like a tongue twister. Cost containment committee for a few months ago. And in that survey, one of the primary things that the committee thought about or wanted to put forward was energy management initiatives. We're doing energy management initiatives through the bond program. So by updating HVAC systems and lighting in the district, those are key things that we can come through that will reduce utilities in the general fund and make a big impact to our budget. Those things are happening. So we're happy to know that the vision came through the bond program, and that is directly addressing the #1 priority of the cost containment through that survey. Planned investments in campus renovations will create cost savings. So the presentation that we just heard before I got here, when we are renovating and reconfiguring these campuses over the year or two, there will be realized savings in the budget. While they may not be long-term, those savings give us room in the next couple of years to be making thoughtful decisions on how we can move forward. Last fiscal year, there was a decision to reduce campus and department budgets by 10% to reduce overhead. while we're not going to add on top of that and do an additional 10%, we're going to maintain that 10% for one more year to review and analyze how we can go through. Evaluate staffing allocations and ratios. That was a decision and a review the board looked at last fiscal year and touched on, so we're going to continue reviewing those, continue making sure our student to staff ratios are where we want to be and where board approved amounts are. And so if we do see reductions in student enrollment, we can make any necessary changes that we need to do there. And then strategically reducing central office budgets to optimize resources and prioritize support for students. So these are things that we are looking in now. We're already making strategic reductions to the central office budget, and we'll be reporting on these line-by-line reductions as we move through the budget process. And then where we're going from here. So now we're getting to the time of year where we'll start to receive our preliminary taxable values from the Texas Comptroller so that we can update our revenue template. We're also looking at student counts as we move into over half of the year. We'll have great numbers on special education, state comp ed, ADA, and those things that directly affect our revenue. So we'll be doing that and bringing to the board any revenue updates and changes. We'll continue discussions with cost containment on strategies and continue our implementation of current initiatives. We played the budget game with Cost Containment Committee as well, and we played the budget game with the district leadership team. And so it's been really a great opportunity to see where everyone's head is, and then also kind of bring them into perspective of what it looks like to reduce the budget. Continue strategic review of the positions district-wide, and we're going to be focusing on student success. So while we want to maintain that we're going to be reducing the budget, we cannot forget that we have to make investments into our students as well. And then you'll see me, as often as you like, regularly updating you all on where we are with the current budget. So I have right now forecasts that I do a monthly forecast on non-payroll and payroll, so we can get down into the details of where we think we're going to be on June 30th at the end of this fiscal year and how we can adequately plan for the future. And any questions?
Trustee Savage Martin.
Going back to your budget review, general fund, one more thing. Yeah. The second set, which says state revenue.
Yes.
Where do you put what comes from the state that hasn't come from the state?
So in the state, so 5811 is the per capita apportionment. So that's just part of the state revenue that we receive. That is not tier one. So the tier one is 5812, and that comes from our student counts in our ADA. So you can see in 23-24, we had a budget there of 47.6, and then the audited actuals were much higher at 64. Really, if you look up at 5711 current taxes, what happens with the state formula, and they changed this back in 2019, is that we really are set up to receive the same amount of funding. So in this instance, our local tax in 5711 went down, and so to offset that reduction, the state foundation school program went up. So it's just a scale. And so sometimes, when you're building a budget, if you build the budget based on a maximum compressed tax rate, that is not what you receive from the state in July, because we have to build our budget before we receive certified values. It could end up in that kind of offset. If you don't amend that in mid-year, then you kind of will see something like that at the end.
And I do understand that offset, but if schools are not getting the money from the state, there should be a big deficit there, right? On the state side?
You see the deficit in the bottom line. So if we were to look at a historical average of state and local payments since 2019, we would see since 2019 a relatively similar amount of revenue as long as our ADA stayed the same, okay? So with all things stay the same. The problem fundamentally is the money has stayed the same since 2019 or even before, but inflation has gone up 22%. The state has required us to have programs and initiatives in our campuses that are expensive, and we don't have funding for those mandates. So I think the challenge is the money has stayed the same, but the requirements have greatly increased.
So then it's incorrect that the state is holding the school district hostage by not paying them money is incorrect.
Well, they're paying us money, but are they adequately funding the things that they require us to do?
I understand
Yes.
that, but we're getting all the money that we're due, even though on the side they say do this and do this and do this.
Based on the current finance formula, we're getting the money that we would expect to do based on that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Trustee Colton.
Good evening. Thank you very much for your report. So getting to the plan, the 18 million, and the plan to kind of reduce that a bit, what is our plan? I've heard a lot, of ideas, but I'm just wondering, what is our plan? Because we're going into the budget.
One thing that we're looking at is, and I think it's in two, as we talk about, I've spoke earlier about a 24-month window. We're really looking at, and especially since we have been fortunate enough to have such a healthy fund balance that does need to come down, we have a little bit more room to figure out and to assess and make sure that every decision we make is best for children. And I do believe we have the funding to do that. Will we bring you reductions in our budget? Absolutely. But again, we hope that everything we bring you is thoughtfully thought through and is student-centered first before we focus on the dollars. And we're fortunate that this board, this community, past administrations have really managed the dollars well, and we do have a healthy fund balance to work through. Really encourage with Brandy in the respect that she is a CFO that does start with the student, that does start with the programming, that does start with those best outcomes for children as we build through this. And I feel very confident that she has the skill set to support us in this area so that when those negative balances do, when we are not adopting deficit budgets, we'll be in a good position. And I don't want you to think I'm necessarily saying we are going to bring you a deficit budget, because that's not what I'm saying, but we're still evaluating all of those things. But we do know that with our healthy fund balance, we could afford to have a deficit budget.
Okay, so what is the optimum level of the fund balance?
You want to speak to that, Brandy?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so when it comes to creditors and people who give us our bond ratings, and we have a very high bond rating, they typically like to look at about 3 months of operating expenses. And so that's where when we started this year right at 6, I think it's 5.9. So we well exceed the 3 months of operating expenses. So because of that, it does give us a little flexibility to say, let's make some cuts now and let's make some cuts next year, and instead of feeling like we have to do everything now, because quite frankly, there's school districts who are going to be going out for loans in the fall next year to pay their salaries, and Duncanville ISD is not in that situation.
So you all will be bringing an update next month regarding where we are?
Right, we'll probably bring updates probably every month at this point is kind of our plan as we move forward. And, we were in a situation where, because of savings and the way even the previous year, we rolled about $7 million into fund balance when we anticipated a deficit budget. So, and please know we're working every day, even with the 18 million that we're adopted. I think, Ms. Mayo spoke to how we're going to even reduce that this year, where we're not going to hit our fund balance for the 18 million that we anticipated we'd have to hit. So things are moving progressively well.
And that'll be the forecast number we'll want to share with you as
Right.
where we're going to be on June 30th.
Right, and I think that Ms. Mayo has also indicated that she wants to bring those more frequently so that we know how we're trending towards the end of this budgetary cycle that we're currently living through.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Any additional questions, discussions, comments? Allow me to go back to 9B. I skipped that. My apologies. We will move to the information discussion agenda item B, bond update with Ms. Fields. Ms. Fields, I apologize.
Thank you. And this is going to be very brief because we don't have a presentation, but I'm going to invite Mr. Hawk with LAN to come kind of give you an update. You've heard a lot about what's happening with the bond, but he wants to give you a little bit more detail about a couple of other projects we're working on.
Good evening, Dr. Flowers, Board of Trustees, Dr. Gori. Ms. Fields already stole half my presentation, so I'm down to the 10 schools. We got approval tonight and the 5 before, so we're ready to start construction. We mobilized last week. Smith, Brandenburg, and Central, we are in the middle of design. Next month, we're bringing presentations for each for you to see how we are progressing on the design. The high school is our big one. We met with Planning and Zoning 2 weeks ago. We got that approval, so we have started our permitting. It's favorable with the city so far. It was a challenging meeting, but it still went through. The next meeting is February 4th, the city council meeting. Hopefully we'll get that approved. We'll have very similar questions. The site plan showed, like we alluded to, the portables. We're using not majority of the existing portables to utilize to move the 9th grade in the front, the northern side of the parking lot. And then at the end, we will remove them. We have roughly 6 months after the TCO is issued to remove these portables from the high school campus. We eventually like to auction, sell, whatever the district decides. So that's our big update. Again, you have already heard all the updates from Ms. Fields, so I'm going to skip all those. They're moving along. I think the big updates will be the high school is in the bidding phase starting, the new addition, and the 9th grade center. So those are the big ones to bring some in February and March. February is Smith, Central, and Brandenburg. Those are the big updates. Presentation from WRA and Huckabee both. So that's all we have. Any questions?
Trustee Savage Martin.
I almost hate to ask this, but are the portables going to be put on the parking lot?
It's in the northern side. You remember the front parking lot facing Camp Wisdom? That's where temporary is going to be, just for 1 year while we are renovating the existing 9th grade center. The parking, I know where you're heading. The parking where people used to park there, the staff, they're going to move to the south side and to the east side. And we have roughly 400 more parking spaces what's required by the city. So we have adequate parking. That was one of the...
Even with the portables?
Even with the portables. And that was one of their major concerns in the planning and zoning meeting.
I bet. I bet. So it'll be ugly for a while.
A short time. We will barricade. We will do as much as possible to hide those portables, but they are required. And again, like Ms. Field says, we're not renting anything except the bathroom portable, which is kind of a prefabricated, ready to go, and that's it. That's for the 9th grade students only. Because remember, the two large toilet restrooms in the existing building will be discontinued, so that's the reason we're providing.
Sure, sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will move to the information discussion agenda, item D, local district update, FFA local student welfare and health service policy edit. Thank you for coming back, Ms. Fields.
I told the group I don't think I had anything last month, and I've been I think here about 5 times. This is very short as well. Board, as you are aware, anytime we make any change to board policy, we have to bring it to you. And so tonight, just this first, it's really a simple edit, but we still have to have your approval and make sure that you know what the change is. This is an editorial change because this is for policy, local policy FFA, which is student welfare and health services. And it in your handout you have on page, I think it's 2 of 3 of the policy at the bottom, it had the title Assistant Superintendent of Operations. That used to be my title when I first got here, and I was in charge of the shack. And we have since transitioned, and our Director of Nursing is in charge of our school health advisory council. And so we want to change that. You know, as we go through policies, we're finding things, and so we want to make sure that we are have our policy in line with our actual practice. And we'll bring this back to you. I will tell you that update 124 is coming out like probably right now, and we'll be bringing a lot more policy updates to you in the spring. Thank you.
Thank you. You said promise. We will move to the information discussion agenda, item E, academic calendar planning process for 2025-26 school year. Dr. Nix.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll make this as brief as you guys would like for me to. I'm honored to present the academic calendar. Just a process, just making sure you guys are aware of the process for the calendar. So this year, of course, as in years past, we have voices from our stakeholders, our parents, our teachers, our educators, our students, central office. It is so important that we get a cadre of perspective from our stakeholders when we start planning our calendar, we start making those type of decisions. So that's just vitally important. We're gonna launch our first meeting on February the 4th, and RSVPs are gonna go out tomorrow. We have about 50 50 people on the committee of community members, stakeholders, things of that nature. And so those RSVPs will go out tomorrow. Hopefully everybody signs up and is in attendance, and we historically have great attendance at our academic calendar meetings. So one of the things that we just want to consider is that this year as we proceed, there are 3 key things that have to be in our calendar. And just a reminder, 75,600 minutes is what's required, minimal. And 3 teacher work days we have to include, embed into our calendar, and any professional development days that we would like to see. As well, we would also like to ensure that our calendar has 187 contract work days for our teachers. Board, just so as you can see the slide, this is just a timeline. So I'm sharing with you just the process. Our goal, our very end goal, is to bring you a draft calendar with survey results for a recommendation for the academic calendar for the 25-26 school year. And the goal is to bring that to you at the March 17th board meeting. So the calendar committee will meet twice. We'll review the feedback from the survey, and then I'll make a recommendation to the committee in March. In the past, one of the things that the board has asked for is to get the information from those who actually attend, the sign-in sheets, the number, just to make sure that you guys know who was there, who participated, who gave feedback, things of that nature. So if that's something that's requested, we can absolutely have that for you as well as we move forward. Okay, very good. So that's just the timeline of where we are. and just kind of make you aware of our process. And this concludes my academic calendar process update for you, and I'm happy to entertain any questions you may have.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do we have any members from Dallas College that will attend the calendar meeting who may be able to catch some of our days that may conflict so we don't have to come back? Are they part of have we reached out to anybody from Dallas College? Is
I
what I'm
can
asking.
tell you that we have not, and that's a brilliant idea, and thank you for that. That's the hang up, right? So if you look right now, Lancaster, DeSoto, Cedar Hill, nobody has put a calendar out because we're usually waiting for Dallas College, who puts theirs out about in February, so we start the process similarly. Now, there are plenty of districts who have put calendars out, but I'll reach out to them starting tomorrow to see if we can get them on that.
Just
would
to
be huge.
regularly consider them
That's
part of
huge.
our calendar committee.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We do not have any, thank you, Dr. Nix. We do not have any communications from citizen. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
It's been moved second. Good night, everybody.